Operation Peace Spring is being closely monitored by the international media. Are the facts reported as they are? It's open to question. US and many European countries are reporting the developments in a very manipulative way. But how? Let's start by analyzing a BBC broadcast about the operation. Let's pay attention to the headline first. Turkey's military operation against Kurds. The operation that's being carried out against the terrorist group YPG is being reported as it's against Kurds. This is an allegation that the Kurds would never accept, because the operation includes providing their life safety. If an editor did not write Kurds instead of YPG by typing wrong letters on the keyboard, there must be another situation behind the scenes. Since its foundation, YPG claims that it's representing Kurds, and what BBC does is nothing but putting its signature under this distortion which rationalizes terror. Now we can start analyzing BBC's Middle East correspondent Orla Guerin's video. Orla Guerin, who worked in Middle East many times, is reporting about the Operation Peace Spring now, and we will see if her report reflects the truth.
A unilateral action by a NATO nation that has been widely condemned.
Let's stop. Does BBC think it's not watched in Norway? Do they not know that NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, who is from Norway, will hear about this? Did Stoltenberg not come to Turkey to specify they support the operation?
Turkey is at the forefront of a very volatile region. No other NATO ally has suffered more terrorist attacks. No other NATO ally is more exposed to the instability, violence and turmoil from the Middle East. And no other NATO ally hosts so many refugees as Turkey does, many of them from Syria.
So this explains a lot.
Britain has been expressing concern, saying that the Turkish assault risks undermining the progress that has been made against the Islamic State group and could destabilize the entire region.
Operation Peace Spring contains not only YPG but also ISIS. So it's impossible to damage the fight against ISIS. Rather, the distractions caused by this terrorist organization are being prohibited. NATO Secretary General has also mentioned about it.
We have a common enemy, Daesh.
With this operation, threats will be removed from the border of Turkey, and civilians will get rid of the pressures of terrorist groups. Also, US President Donald Trump not leave the fight against ISIS to Turkey by withdrawing his soldiers from the region.
We want to bring our troops back home.
That at least 10 Syrian civilians have been killed.
The claims do not reflect the reality. Just as the Operation Euphrates Shield and the Operation Olive Branch, Turkey is quite careful about protecting civilians. Turkish armed forces is going ahead with the operation without harming any civilian. What would happen if they were not careful? Let's give an example. In Raqqa and Mosul, thousands of civilians were killed because of the operations supported by US. So how do they accuse Turkey of damaging civilians? Let's think about it. Since the operation began, hundreds of terrorists were killed, but they are dressing like civilians just as they did during the previous operations. So they are trying to create a perception as if civilians are being killed. Also, 8 civilians were killed in Mardin as a result of terrorist attacks, and 35 were injured. So BBC is not telling the truth but deflecting it.
It's the start of a Turkish offensive that is alarming Europe, has been condemned by America, and is bringing fresh instability to the Middle East.
Let's talk about September 11. The instability that they talk about began with the US invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq after the September 11 attacks. And US-supported terrorist organizations were established in this period. The US administration trying to clean up a terrorist organization with another terrorist organization has left a huge distraction in the region. What Turkey does is to clean up this distraction, because the things that happen on its border concerns Turkey very closely. So far, Turkey lost its many citizens because of the terrorist activities. Turkey wants to protect its people by removing the danger from its border. So it does not add a new problem that will affect itself negatively. On the contrary, Turkey aims to put an end to terror and instability. The purpose is to bring peace to the region and to protect people.
And once again, Syrian civilians forced to flee.
Let's stop. What did the spokesperson of Turkish presidency, Ibrahim Kalın, say in BBC broadcast?
We've done more for the Syrian people and the Syrian refugees for their safety and security than any other country. We're hosting about 4 million Syrian refugees, and we have prevented them from Daesh attacks in Turkey as well as in the Syrian territories.
Civilians have never been forced to flee from their houses. They cannot even leave their houses because of the terrorist attacks. Turkey has already passed this exam with the Operation Euphrates Shield and the Operation Olive Branch. It took civilians to the safe zones. During this process, Turkey supported the refugees in all areas. This is still going on. People are not being forced to flee from their houses. Their safety is being provided, so that the operation will be completed without damaging any civilian.
President Erdogan is calling this Operation Peace Springs, but for civilians across the border on the Syrian side, this is going to feel like one more round of battle in an agonizingly long war.
Congratulations! This time, BBC is right about something. Erdogan says this operation will bring peace. Many Syrians feeling the pressure and attacks of terrorist organizations are far from their home. Turkey is hosting about 4 million refugees. Syrians cannot return to their country because of the attacks and the distractions in the region. So, Operation Peace Spring is a hope for refugees who want to return to their country. After the operation, it's planned to place Syrians in the areas that will be saved. Turkey will provide refugees to return their home in peace and security. Let's look at the photo for a few seconds. The plans of the district where they will stay are ready. Even the names of the operations carried out so far show that the goal is only peace.
Ankara also wants to drive out Syrian Kurdish forces it views as terrorists.
Another distorted information about the operation. This operation is carried out against terrorist organizations, and Turkey does not name local people as terrorists. It's not trying to get people out of their lands, but to ensure that they live safely in their country. In this process, all kinds of measures are being taken to protect people from damage. As in the Euphrates Shield and Olive Branch, civilians are being removed from conflict zones, and every kind of support is being provided to sustain their lives. We analyzed a BBC broadcast about the Operation Peace Spring. First of all, congratulations. When we look at the claims that do not reflect the reality, their imagination is quite powerful. We corrected the lies they spread to the world about the operation. Share your comments.
We've done more for the Syrian people and the Syrian refugees for their safety and security than any other country. We're hosting about 4 million Syrian refugees, and we have prevented them from Daesh attacks in Turkey as well as in the Syrian territories.